2014, you worked with the Villa de Cancun apartment complex.
I did.
As a security guard.
Yes.
Part of your duties there.
Stop. Sorry. Come on up. Why don't you stand up? Why don't you stand right out here, please? And I want you to tell us. Just cross-examine. Okay.
Part of your duties as a security guard is to patrol the grounds.
Yes.
And you would do that by going on regular rounds.
Yes.
And on April 7th, 2014, you were doing your regular rounds.
I was.
About 7 o'clock in the evening.
I did around at 7 o'clock.
And you happened by apartment 3205.
Yes.
And you happened by that apartment as part of your rounds.
Normally, I go by that apartment during my rounds, yes.
There was no call about that apartment.
No.
No noise complaint about that apartment.
No.
You didn't hear anything coming from that apartment.
No.
So when you happened by that apartment, you saw 3 gentlemen standing outside.
I think it may have been 4.
Okay, so you saw 4 gentlemen standing outside.
Yes.
And you noticed one of those gentlemen had something in his hand.
Yeah, I immediately.
So it's something in his hand, yes?
Yes.
And it was some sort of cigar.
It appears to be marijuana, not
Okay.
cigarettes.
At first, you thought it was some sort of cigar, correct?
Bribe.
Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you asked him about that cigar.
I did.
You said, what is that?
Yes.
And he said, weed.
I did. He said weed.
And at that point, you were him to come to you.
I did.
To leave the patio area of 3205
Yes.
and to come to you.
Yes.
You took his marijuana
I did.
and you put it on the hood of a car.
I did.
Then you took him to the hood of that car.
I told him to stand next to the car, yes.
You took him to that car. Yes?
Yes.
And you patted him down.
I did.
You patted all of his pockets.
I did.
In some of those pockets, you felt a bulge.
Yes.
Right? And you had patted him down because you were worried about weapons. Right?
I was worried about weapons and he had more drugs.
When you patted him down, you were worried he had weapons.
That was one of my concerns,
Right.
yes.
When you spoke to Officer Baker on April 7th, 2014, didn't you tell him you patted him down because you were worried about weapons?
Yes.
Yes. When you patted him down, you felt a bulge in one of his pockets.
I did.
You then ordered him to remove all the items from his pockets.
I did.
And he emptied his pockets onto the hood of the car,
Correct.
as directed.
Yes.
He was not verbally abusive to you,
No.
did not resist your efforts in any way,
No.
complied with every direction that you gave.
Yes.
You handcuffed Mr. Jones,
I did.
and you called the police.
I did.
All right, good. Real good, Miranda. Wow. Miranda gives the next lecture on cross-examination that's done at this office. Very, very good. The forensics are perfect. All right? I really love your pace, and I love everything. The manner you ask the questions as well as the leading nature of it. Let's give Miranda some thoughts about, I want the picture to be fuller. All right? These ideas are not really forensic ideas, like how to ask a better leading question. These are ideas about how to make your point more memorable and more meaningful. Okay? Let me give you an example. You saw this guy that you hadn't had a complaint. Okay. The apartment. So let's fill in the blanks. The apartment manager didn't call you. The people in apartment number 333 didn't call you. The apartment 334 didn't call you. 335 didn't call you. The police didn't call you. You with me? Fill in the blanks. Let's give her some more ideas about how to make this more memorable. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know what time of day it was.
Great
and
point.
Because the way you said you went by this apartment, so I didn't know if he was knocking on the door, were there people on the patio, were they in the covered walkway?
And I don't know.
Well,
And then whether or not, is it illegal to smoke in the hallway? Cause so what if the man had a cigar, he's not here, paying business?
Right,
well, with outdoor,
Building on that, the issue, I thought you touched on it with only one question about the patio area. He asked him to step off the patio area. To me, that was kind of important, whether that he was in his own area.
Because I don't know.
privilege. Okay.
Client says it was more enclosed, but I have not been able to get out and do a scene visit to actually see, because some of them, based on what I could see online, are enclosed and some aren't, so.
but one of the, sorry, Mark, but one of the points back here is what time is it? I know maybe for this exercise you don't know, it's about 7:15 at
I
night.
think it said about 7 p.m.
Yeah, and so that's an important, that's a real, it's not the middle of the night, a bunch of guys hanging out, right? It's
And whether it's
7:15.
light or outside.
That's another little brushstroke you can put in this painting. What else?
I was gonna say, to preface it with, you know, sort of talking about some of the crazy shit the security guards do see to start. Like, you know, it's part of your job to deal with crises on this apartment complex. You see people screaming, you see, you know, people with guns, you see all these other sort of wild things that sort of, by comparison, shows yours is not such a breach of the peace.
Just from my expertise, I think you need to establish that it's a citizen, not a licensed enforcement. That's probably a good couple questions to ask, because you are focusing on the citizens.
I think you also, I looked a little bit of the case on this, you have to make sure you have to privy, put the guy in handcuffs. I think he did in your facts.
He did, he says in a roll call he did. There's a
Yeah,
roll call
okay,
that
good,
said I
good,
put him
good,
in
good.
handcuffs.
You gotta show that you're arrested, right? What about this? Any other thoughts about, show that this is not a breach of the peace?
Well, I would also ask, because I wanted to know, is the officer armed when he comes up? And also, you said, you asked him, you were worried about your safety, so you were looking for weapons, and you pat down all his pockets. You didn't find any weapons.
I was just trying to also highlight him saying, well, I patted him down for weapons, and then I ordered him to remove it from his pockets. He wasn't really worried about weapons, or he wouldn't let the guy remove his own stuff from his
Nice.
pocket. But to answer that, I don't know if he was armed, my client doesn't know. He does have the type of license that would allow him to carry a gun, but I don't know if he actually.
So your guy didn't see it then?
No.
But what is reaching into his pockets, what is,
No, it just
What does it matter?
established that there's no weapon present,
What
because
does
in
it
the case
matter?
law, that was important. If
But what
there's
does
a
that
weapon
matter?
present.
what does it matter?
Oh, just, I mean, he's saying like, I'm worried about weapons, and he's not.
I'm with you. So you're saying so it's a credibility issue?
Yeah, I think, yeah, there was nothing about my guy that even suggested he had weapons, so this whole like, I'm gonna
Now
try to.
you're on it. Now you're on it. The issue is breach of peace, right? What is a breach of peace? It's where other people see what this guy's doing, and go, yeah, this is bad, this is inciting violence, this is gonna make us all crazy, it's gonna make the neighborhood catch fire, it's gonna do something. So, when you saw him, you didn't see a gun in his hand. You didn't see any weapon in his hand. You didn't see a weapon in his pocket. You didn't see there wasn't a gun hanging off of tucked into his back thing. In other words, if there was nothing that a person could have seen that would have suggested the guy had a weapon. And if, that would be a breach of the peace, right? But the fact that you can't tell he's got a weapon wouldn't, so you gotta play that out. How about this? The guy's not intoxicated, right?
I had smoked it yet.
He hadn't smoked it,
But he says that he's kind of rolling it, so.
right? Is that important?
Yeah, because there's some case law on intoxication.
Exactly. That could lead to a breach of the peace, right? So I'm all drunk and I'm about to get in my car and drive off. That could be a breach of the peace, right? So now, how would you get that out in this thing?
Well, he doesn't ever tell anybody that he thought the guy might have been intoxicated, so.
So how would you?
If you cross him on all of the things that he wasn't, he didn't have slurred speech and he
Bingo.
wasn't someone around.
Absolutely. And how would you headline that? That'd be a good point for a headline, right, to the judge.
His demeanor.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you now maybe about his signs, the signs of sobriety. Mr. Jones's signs of sobriety. You didn't see him stumble. You didn't see him You didn't hear him slur. He wasn't loud. He was dressed appropriately. And all the other things we hear in the misdemeanor,
I would put in like,
court.
the only reason that you start to detain him is because you saw that marijuana. There wasn't any other reason that caused you to do that.
He didn't know it was marijuana when he saw it.
Well,
The only reason you detained him is you saw what looked to be
Well, he
a
said he
cigar.
had marijuana.
Right.
He asked.
he walks up to the guy and he
He was honest.
Basically,
Hey, that's the point. Only reason is because he was honest and told you he had marijuana.
For the header, she should say, let's talk about the signs of sobriety. Should she say that in her cross, or just don't say that? Cause is it because it's gonna be a suppression hearing, or would you do that in front
I
of?
would definitely do it in front of the jury. But of course, what's your word?
Because I wouldn't even talk, cause earlier you talked about taking those baby steps, but not going a step too far. And if you say, let's talk about signs of sobriety, even I just feel like you're setting yourself up for them to fight you. They're gonna fight you. Right.
He might say, well, I see where he's going.
Yeah, it's just.
Here's what I feel comfortable about, because in the report, which I've read, there are zero facts that say that he was, I know, you might be something coming, right?
I agree with you, for the suppression, for the jury, I might go into, you didn't see bloodshot eyes, you didn't see intoxication, and then you can blast him for not even putting any of that in the report if he tries to go sideways. But in front of the judge, where the judge is liable to hang their hat on whatever they can to right, I would hide the question in terms of the singular reason you detained him was for the marijuana, and not.
Very good. Good point. He hadn't smoked yet, that was good, there's no smell of marijuana. These guys weren't fighting, there was no belligerent talk, they weren't wrestling over this weed, right?
People smoke a lot of things that are,
Right.
if he said weed, that doesn't necessarily mean marijuana. People smoke a lot of things that are tobacco, but doesn't mean that it's illegal substance either.
I think that might be a tough.
I don't think we can.
Weed.
But
I don't think they do.
well, he does, just because the person says that this is weed, that doesn't necessarily mean it's illegal for a security guard to come and pull somebody off. The man never said it was marijuana, he just said weed. And
There you go.
he took it to mean that, but he didn't know.
Could be synthetic.
Right.
They weren't about to get in the car. They weren't about to say. So that's good. That's another thing that says it's not a breach of peace. No one else was upset, nobody angry. There are no little kids around, according to or at least the inferences from the report, there are no children. You might. Have y'all reached out to this guy?
I think my investigators tried to talk to
Okay.
him.
Not cooperating. Anyway, great cross, really good. Let's do one more. Danny, where's Danny?
Come down with it.
Anywhere you want, just don't look at your witness, okay?
This guy is it's an ag robbery case, and
Crazy.
it's where my client, Mr. Adalpez, some of y'all might have known or met him. He, unfortunately, this happened to him 5 times where he mistakenly gets accused of robbing people in garage sales. And so, the story is basically he befriends people at garage sales and then somehow it ends up to be a robbery. And I think the only way to really attack this case is to show that there's a relationship between the complaining witness and the client, and to show that they're so involved that there's no way you would actually rob the guy you know because it's too close. And the complaining witness is gonna be a Spanish speaker, so I'm gonna pretend he's a Spanish, I'm gonna speak English obviously.
Okay.
He'll speak English back, but I'm just gonna start off that way, just so I can you'll see where I'm going with it.
What's the defense?
He didn't do it. And they're all just, basically it's a business deal gone bad.
Why is this guy lying?
Because a couple of reasons, because he was trying to sell them some hoses, and some of the hoses turned out to be stolen, And so when he was trying to call the cops on him, they called the cops on him first, or something to that nature.
Wait, so your client supposedly stole him some stolen hoses?
The complaining witness supposedly sold him some hoses that were stolen, and which is in dispute on its own. And so the complaining witness in the case calls the cops and says, look, this guy robbed me. So my client's like, no, I didn't rob him. He's mad at me because he sold me some bad hoses. And it's an interesting story, but it happened 5 different times. So
She doesn't get on the jury. I would say
I was
exercise the right.
And everyone in this office has heard me rant about this case, so I'm trying to.
Just because you love the class.
That's true. So, Mr. Cedillo, my name is Daniel Acayo. I represent Mr. Adalpe. You speak, we're gonna use a translator in this case, as you've already been told. Now, something, if we can make an agreement, I'm gonna ask you a question, and then if you could answer the question, answer it back in Spanish, and the translator is gonna answer it in English. If you don't understand my question, tell me you don't understand my question, and I'll repeat it again. Can we agree to that, sir?
Claro que sí.
Mr. Cedillo, I want to take you back to September of 2011, and you were living at 10601 Foy Street, correct?
Correct.
And you were living with your wife
Yes.
and also your 2 daughters.
Yes.
And just to give a jury, or to give the jury an idea of where Foy Street is, if you were to get on the freeway, you would take 59 North and get off at Aldine Westfield Road, correct?
Yes.
And Foy Street, or the neighborhood, or the house that you live in, it's a residential district.
Yes.
And there's different houses all around you.
Yes.
And you know your neighbors, don't you?
I do.
And you also work at a different, you work down the street from where you live, correct?
Close by, yes.
Now, at Foy Street, you and your wife have a side business of doing garage sales.
We did.
And typically your garage sales are held on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yes.
And at the garage sales, you guys sell things that belong to you guys and also that you purchase during the week, correct?
Could you repeat the question?
You buy items from other garage sales and you resell them at your garage sales.
Sometimes.
And some of these items are new and some of these items are old, correct?
Yes.
For instance, some of the things that you sell at these garage sales are, you sell tires for cars,
Yes.
you sell clothing,
Yes.
you sell cooking gear,
Yes.
you sell toys,
Yes.
you even sell some potted plants.
Yep.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Sir, I'm showing you what's been previously marked as defense exhibit number 1. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of a potted plant that you saw at this garage sale?
Yes.
May I approach you back? At this time, defense offers defense exhibit number 1 to the prosecutor moves to admit it to evidence.
Objection.
Man, it's over the prosecutor.
May I call this just to the jury, Your Honor? And as we were talking before, one of these potted plants, you sell this at your garage sale, correct?
Yes.
Now, you know who Mr. Adalpe is, don't you?
I know Mr. Adalpe.
And he's the person that's sitting over there and, sitting next to me, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Adalpe came up to you in September and started speaking with you and your wife
I believe it was September.
of 2011. Now, when Mr. Adalpe spoke to you, he informed you that he sells uniforms and potted plants to other people that resell them at garage sales, correct?
I don't remember exactly what he said, but that sounds right.
Okay, it does sound right. And Mr. Adalpe informed you that he sells uniforms.
He did say he sold uniforms.
And he actually showed you some uniforms.
Yes.
And he showed you uniforms for people that work in the cooking industry.
Yes.
He showed you uniforms where people work in, for instance, in the automotive industry.
Yes.
And he also showed you uniforms of people that work in the law enforcement industry, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't buy any of those uniforms, correct?
Not on that day.
However, later on, you bought regular clothing from him, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Now, he also showed you these potted plants,
Yes,
and you bought some of these potted plants from him.
we did.
And you would sell these potted plants at your garage sale.
Some of them, so.
And Mr. Adalpe got your phone number, didn't he?
Yeah,
And you got his phone number, correct?
yes,
And when you ran low on supplies, you would call him to come over and give you new supplies.
sometimes.
But that did occur.
Well, it just depended on what the supplies were.
Sir, but that did occur.
Well, could you repeat your question?
Sure. When you ran out of supplies, you would call Mr. Adolphe to come over to resell you certain items. Is that correct?
Some items, yeah.
And those items included these potted plants,
Yes,
and they included certain uniforms.
yes,
And Mr. Adolphe had your number,
yes,
and he would call you to ask you whether you needed supplies.
yes.
And Mr. Adolphe would come to your garage sales every once in a while to check up on you guys.
We can stop by.
In fact, there was an occasion where Mr. Adolphe was short on money and you gave him about $40, isn't that right?
I think it was 60, but yeah,
So you did give him some money.
I did.
And there was also, and when Mr. Adolphe would come over, there was at least one occasion when you invited him over to eat.
Yeah, we invited him to that.
And if I remember correctly, that was tortillas and a couple of tacos, right?
I don't remember, but I'll agree with you.
And so he knew what your house looked like from the inside.
At least the dining room.
And so he also had met your kids.
Yes,
Now, he also knew, Mr. Adolphe also knew where you worked at.
he did. Yeah,
And it's fair to tell the jury that you sell different types of equipment at a store for like sandblasting and things of that nature, industrial nature.
we do.
And Mr. Adolphe came over one day because you invited him.
We came over. I don't remember if I invited him or he came over.
And as far as you can remember, he was not uninvited.
He was there. I don't remember.
You didn't tell him to leave when he came to your business, did you?
No.
And in fact, you all went into the back area by the warehouse, correct?
We did.
And when y'all went to the warehouse, you showed him some sandblasting equipment. And you told Mr. Adolphe that you wanted him to sell that sandblasting equipment.
Yeah, we talked about him, so.
And I'll just introduce this picture of the sandblasting equipment. Now, when Mr. Adolphe told you that he couldn't sell that sandblasting equipment, were you surprised?
No, not really. He didn't deal with that stuff.
Mr. Adolphe came to your residence upset because he couldn't sell that sandblasting equipment, correct?
Yeah,
And when he came over, he accused you of you selling him stolen items.
he did accuse me of that, yes.
And he told you that he didn't want to get in trouble.
Yes, he said that.
And you took Mr. Adolphe to your uncle's house that night.
No, he took
Let
me.
me stop. Pause. Where are we on this cross? Do we know where we were going? We're lost? We're lost? Do you know, Jackie? I think obviously we just have a few minutes here, but yeah, there's a sense that I'm not putting the pieces together. You know, and you're running the risk here of losing your jury. That's probably the main thing, right?
I think he did a good job of establishing their relationship, but then when it switched over to, I guess what the point of it is, I wasn't sure of that.
I had to skip I skipped a good chunk of it to get in there, but that's what my main thing is, to just get them to know each other, because this guy's gonna come in and say like, I really don't know him, and he just came over one time.
Yeah.
And he just happened, he happened to get a taco from me once, and, you know, it's always like a little bit, like adult.
You gotta really know a guy to get a taco.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't like talk to him, get a little bit of feeling of it, but I know what you're saying.
Here's, I think that, I think it's perfect to stop right here, and I think what the sense you're getting from everybody is important, which is maybe use those signposts a little bit better. Now we're gonna talk about this, get to it quickly, now we're gonna talk about this, and we're gonna take that trip in a little bitty bits that I was talking about. Obviously you got it all figured out, you know how to do a cross-examination, an effective one, now you're really working on storytelling, and which is great. Okay, I'm done. Wait a minute, one more thing to say, I really did, as a former public defender type person. And that is that, we in our profession, criminal defense lawyers, I think particularly as public defenders, don't get a lot of attaboys and attagirls. And because of that, and probably a lot of other things, we can easily lose sight of truly the nobility of what we do and the importance of it all. We are protecting people's constitutional rights. Not just anybody, you particularly are protecting the most vulnerable among us. And there's really true majesty and nobility in that. And you're not only, look, it's good every once in a while to think about this, all right? You're not only doing this for your client, that's the person who benefits most directly, of course. But you're carrying a torch that's been passed along for hundreds of years, all right? Right to you, right to us. And you are doing something else I think is very, very needed and very important. And that is you're raising the bar in this courthouse. Pardon the pun, but you're raising the standard of advocacy, you're raising the standard of professionalism, and you're raising the standard of effective lawyering in this courthouse. I'm not saying it was needed, I'm just saying it's happening.